With the 2020 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame announced, the big ticket will punch his way to Springfield and will be forever glorified for basketball greatness. The 6'11" power forward is one of the best fours in NBA history, most remembered for his intensity, leadership, toughness, and incredible two-way play. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Today, we'll take a look at the great career of Kevin Garnett, one of my favorite players growing up, responsible for changing the NBA and Minnesota Timberwolves franchise forever, made history in the mid-90s, becoming the first player drafted out of high school since 1975, paved the way for future stars like Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, LeBron James, amongst others, selected 5th overall in the 95 draft with insane upside at 19 years old, followed the footsteps of Moses Malone, insanely mobile with a great all-around game. Just like many teenagers, Garnett wasn't a star right away, played for an awful Timberwolves franchise and expansion team, existed for 6 seasons before his arrival, never even winning more than 29 games in a single season. Garnett averaged over 10 and 6 as a rookie, came off the bench the first half of the season, made improvements, put up 15 and 9 over 2 blocks his last 38 games. The future looked brighter than ever when the team selected Ray Allen 5th overall in the 96 draft, but 15 minutes later traded him for the draft rights to Stephon Marbury, looking to form a new duo similar to Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp. The team's only other all-star was forward Tom Gugliotta, a 20-point scorer in his prime. Minnesota was no match for Houston in the first round in 97. KG was becoming more well-rounded by his 3rd season, put up 18.5 points, almost 10 rebounds, over 4 dimes, almost 2 steals and 2 blocks, a solid 45 wins. Marbury had some great moments, fell to the 61-win Supersonics in the first round. The franchise gave Garnett the biggest contract in NBA history, 6 years worth $126 million. Would influence the 99 lockout, owners didn't like 21-year-olds getting that type of bread. With the franchise being in the Midwest, didn't attract many free agents. With low attendance before KG's stardom, that's why he was called the big ticket. But the contract led to consequences and jealousy. Marbury was limited to a $71 billion payday. The team didn't want to trade Steph, so Gugliotta left. So did veteran point guard Terry Porter. Marbury then forced his way out 13 games into the lockout year, giving Garnett a totally new supporting cast, already a top 10 player in the game, putting up 21, 10, and 4. Joe Smith replaced Gugliotta's spot, who was caught getting paid under the table after signing multiple one-year deals below the market value, allowing the team to make other moves after turning down an $80 million extension from the Warriors, which enabled the Wolves to acquire his bird rights and be rewarded for a huge contract, allowing them to go over the cap. The team was severely punished, forced to forfeit 5 first-round picks, later reduced to 3 after. Terrell Brandon was Marbury's replacement, signed decent players in Malik Sealy and Bobby Jackson. Garnett lost to Duncan and Robinson Spurs in round 1. Those 5 games, although Garnett had the better numbers over Duncan, San Antonio was a lot better, combined with having one of the best centers in the game. Flash forward to 2000, KG led the Wolves to 50 wins, averaged 23, 12, and 5, drafted Wally Zerviak. The 23-year-old finished 2nd in the MVP race. No match for the powerhouse Trailblazers in round 1. Close friend Malik Sealy tragically passed away after celebrating KG's 24th birthday from a car accident, a devastating loss to the NBA. Minnesota then added Chauncey Billups, unproven at the time. Garnett didn't have another all-star on his team. While the Lakers had Shaq and Kobe, Duncan still had Robinson. The Kings were loaded with Weber and Stojakovic. Dallas had Nash and Nowitzki. Garnett averaged 22 and 11, the 8th seed in 2001, lost to San Antonio 3-1. That series, Duncan put up 22.5 points, 13 rebounds, Garnett 21 and 12, over 4 assists, but nobody had any answers to match up with the Admiral. After a couple frustrating first-round exits, from Joe Smith being very disappointing, Brandon went down with injury, only played 32 games in 2002, Billups started 54 of them, averaged over a dozen, made tons of improvement. Garnett once again, good all-around numbers. Zerviak made the all-star team, but was no match for the 57-win Mavs, swept in 3. The team stupidly let Billups walk in free agency. Garnett had little to no help, became the 3rd player to lead his team in all 5 major statistical categories, joining Dave Collins, Scottie Pippen. LeBron James and Giannis also accomplished that feat after. Finished 2nd in MVP voting after leading his Wolves to 51 wins, but matched up against the 3-time defending champion Lakers, 2 players just as superior as Garnett, who averaged 27 and 16 for the series, but lost in 6. No superstar at the time had to single-handedly carry their team as much as Garnett. Being 0-7 in the playoffs wasn't his fault, was already one of the top 4 players in the game, Troy Hudson and Rasho Nestorovich were the third and fourth leading scorers before the team traded Joe Smith and Anthony Peeler for Sam Cassell plus Irvin Johnson of the Bucks, landed Latrell Sprewell in a 4-team trade to help KG finally needed to get him over the hump, had his best year in 2004, put up over 24 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal and a half, over 2 blocks, earned 120 of 123 first place MVP votes, led his team to the best record in the West, absolutely torched the Nuggets, put up 26, 15, and 7, a classic 7-game series against Sacramento, refused to let his team lose, hit a clutch go-ahead jumper in Game 3, had a masterful 32-point, 21 rebound, 4 steal, 5 block performance, and an epic Game 7, proved he was the best player on the floor, did a little bit of everything that game, but fell to the Lakers in the conference finals. Garnett averaged almost 24 and 14, but Cassell suffered a hip injury in Game 2. Minnesota's backup point guard was also injured. Secondary backup Derek Martin had to start 2 of those games. Cassell strongly believed his team would have won the championship if he was healthy, being a first-time All-Star that season. But 2005 would be a major disappointment. Going 44 and 38, Garnett continued to have great numbers. Cassell only appeared in 59 games. Sprewell averaged a career low 12.8 points. Too little too late. Both were already in their mid-30s. Latrell shockingly rejected a 3-year $21 million offer after saying it wouldn't be enough to feed his family. Retired after. Cassell was then traded to the Clippers for Marko Jaric, an absolute travesty of a decision. It's a miracle how Minnesota had KG for this many years in the first place. The 06 Wolves won just 33 games. A lot of the players were injured, having no help whatsoever, followed by a 32-win 07 season. Ricky Davis and Mark Blunt were the second and third option. Garnett was literally wasting away his best years. With all the terrible decisions by the front office to Garnett wanting to remain loyal, Kevin McHale finally traded the 31-year-old superstar to the Celtics for 5 players, 2 firsts, where he was surrounded with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. Up to that point, Garnett hasn't played with anyone as great as those two. Totally transformed the team around with the greatest single-season turnaround in NBA history, from 24 wins to 66 wins. Minnesota just won 22 games, had a 14-year playoff drought, showing how dysfunctional the franchise was. Despite Garnett's numbers going down, he was still a superstar. His presence alone made all his teammates better. Won Defensive Player of the Year. Even though Pierce won Finals MVP, Garnett was easily the best player on the team. Led the charge in the first 2 rounds against Atlanta and Cleveland, was huge down the stretch, dominated the Pistons, putting up 23 and 10. After Ray Allen found his rhythm, the C's were close to unbeatable. Garnett would absolutely destroy, abuse, annihilate, humiliate, and bully Pau Gasol in the 08 finals. Out-hustled and out-muscled him in every way imaginable. Punctuated by an insane putback dunk to seal Game 1, had 26 and 14 in the closeout Game 6, had one of the most iconic post-game celebration speeches all time.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
With a huge chance to repeat, KG got hurt. The team was 44 and 13 with him on the floor. Took Orlando to 7 games without him. Would have easily made the finals if healthy. Made it back to the finals the following season. Although his numbers weren't great, was still a monster defensively. Lost to the Lakers in 7 games. Already in his mid-30s and no longer in his prime, KG had his last great postseason in 2012. Averaged 19.2 points, over 10 rebounds. Spent the twilight of his career with the Nets, then back to Minnesota. Retired in 2016. Between the ages of 23 to 30, looking at the numbers between Garnett and Duncan, 22.5 points, 12.5 rebounds, 5 assists, over a block and a steal and a half on 49% shooting, compared to 22 a game, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 2.5 blocks, over 50% shooting. Even the advanced numbers slightly favor Garnett, having a better PER and more total win shares over that span. Almost dead even. We all know Timmy D had the way better career on better teams, but in their primes they were very close, neck and neck, a serious debate in the mid-2000s. Of course, Duncan also had way better playoff success and a better interior defender, but Garnett was a more mobile defender, can guard 1 to 5, the only player in NBA history to average at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists in a season, more than 6 times, paved the way for modern bigs like Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis. With his versatility, KG can simply do everything on the floor in a slow-paced defensive-minded era. Him Him and Duncan were guaranteed 20 and 10s each and every night. Garnett even had over 400 games of scoring double figures. Looking at some of his Timberwolves teams who lost in the first round, if they were in the East in the early 2000s, Garnett would have certainly been more than capable of single-handedly dragging those Timberwolves teams to the finals with weaker competition. Overshadowed by Kobe, Shaq, and Duncan, the three best players in the 2000s being in the same conference. If KG and Duncan switched spots and had a big in David Robinson to start off his career, a coach in Greg Popovich, one of the best all time, stars like Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard, one can say Garnett could have also won 5 titles, who's also only one of 4 players to win MVP and have a Defensive Player of the Year award, joining Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and David Robinson. Combined with 4 rebounding titles, a gold medalist, 15-time All-Star, All-Star Game MVP, made 12 defensive teams, 9 defensive first teams, top 3 in MVP voting 4 times, 4 All-NBA first teams. There's a reason why he was rated 99 multiple times in 2K. The only player to ever reach at least 25,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 5,000 assists, 1,500 steals, and 1,500 blocks. In today's game, it's much more frequent for many star players to switch teams after every couple seasons if they're not satisfied. Because of the pride and responsibility, KG always took it upon himself, felt everything was his fault for Minnesota's lack of success, but in fact, it was the team and front office's failures who cost their superstar many frustrating seasons. Garnett did everything he could, combined with his passion and loyalty, never cared about his numbers. Seeing how bad his Wolves were, it's unfortunate Garnett spent most of his years on a terrible franchise. He'll get his jersey number retired with Boston and make the Hall of Fame before getting his numbers hung up with Minnesota, which just shows how awful the ownership is. When asked about the Jimmy Butler situation back in 2018, his response to Timberwolves owner Glenn Taylor:
I totally understand him. I totally get it. And he's dealing with Glenn, who doesn't know shit about basketball.
As an all-around basketball player, one can make the case Kevin Garnett might just be the most talented power forward all time, one of the hardest working players the game has ever seen, and of course remember for his trash talk, fierce, and never backing down from a challenge. There will never be another Kevin Garnett. What's your favorite memory of the big ticket? Where do you rank him amongst the best power forwards all time? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love all of you. See you next time.